Hello, and you are listening to FPcast, the official podcast for Fruitless Pursuits, where we bullshit about the week in pop culture. I am Luke.
And I'm Jacinta.
And this week we're talking about...
television, collectibles, video games, comics, books, board games, and more.
Booty.
And bosoms. That's the favourite thing about that whole pirate thing for me is...
Corsets?
The corsets that just push those boobies right up.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty mesmerising to me.
It is. And
Hypnotising.
especially considering that, look, I like Keira Knightley, but she's not blessed in that area. But a corset works its magic.
It does. I remember. I agree. Like, you don't watch Bend It Like Beckham and think, oh, now here's a buxom girl, lass, woman. But I was going to say wench because we were talking about pirates, and then I stopped myself and said girl, and thought girl's not that great either.
No.
Should quit while I'm ahead.
Lady.
I'm going to go through with it though. But I can't remember which Pirates movie it was. It was one of the original trilogy. I found myself fascinated by Keira Knightley's cleavage, and that seemed like a little bit of an oxymoron. So yeah, we're going to review boobs, people. Well, look, it's very relatable.
Well,
Half the population
have them,
has them. The other ones
like them.
could look at them all day.
Yeah, sure. Universal
Appeal, boobiversal appeal. I like it. Put that on the poster, pirates. Look, it can't hurt.
There won't be any more posters though. We're finished. We're
This was
all
the
done.
final chapter.
Final chapter.
Unless it makes how much money do you reckon? If it makes $1 billion, there's no way it's the final chapter. Although we just saw it and it wasn't very packed for the opening weekend. It was a Sunday, so you know. But we're reviewing Pirates of the Caribbean. Caribbean.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. It's a regional thing, I think. And everyone here says Caribbean. But maybe elsewhere they say Caribbean.
Yeah, because on the Muppets there's that song Caribbean Amphibian. Yeah.
Maybe that just suited the rhyme better.
It's not a Caribbean amphibian.
Perhaps they changed it for their own
No, I don't know.
uses.
I've heard it both ways. And I feel like we'll call it POTC. Or Potc.
Or just pirates.
Pirates. There's only one big pirate franchise at the moment. So we saw that. We're going to talk about the 5th installment. We're going to review that a little bit later. We're also going to review John Wick 2, Chapter 2. We finally saw that. And a whole heap of news. And right at the end, I would like to talk about the return of Twin Peaks. So much stuff. It's a overflowing...
Let's dive into the treasure chest of
corset.
FPcast. Oh, okay. We're going in really different directions there.
Still a treasure chest.
I suppose so.
A treasured chest. All right. So let's get straight into the news. And I just realised I'm being all fun and happy. And this is actually very sad news. But it's interesting.
More sad than interesting.
Yeah, but there is an interesting element to this. So... very sad news, Zack Snyder, and I'm a Zack Snyder fan. Like, anyone who, shits on the man, fuck you. I think he's, crazy amazing. I love his imagery. It's a visual medium, and he you're blaming Zack Snyder for shitty scripts, and he didn't write them. So, I love his visuals. And anyway, this is great. What I mean, it's great because of this incident, people... humanizing him finally, and it's good to see that somebody, you can shit on an artist for their work if you don't like it, fair enough, apples, oranges, different ice cream flavors, but when a personal tragedy strikes someone, you don't see people piling shit on the guy. People are supportive and wishing him and his family well, so that's good. There is a shred of humanity left on the internet, so bless you. If people don't know, in March, Zack Snyder, he's got a lot of children, right?
Oh, I'm not sure of Zack Snyder's...
I think he's got 6 or 7
setup.
or something, but his daughter committed suicide in March, and him and his wife's a producer, she's some way involved in Justice League, I've tried to soldier it on, bury in the work, keep going.
And that's pretty intense. Like, to just go, well, you know, the kid's killed herself. We're just going to push on with what we're doing. No way.
But the movie's also, like, been in a bit of turmoil. I don't think the test screenings were particularly well received from what I've read, and there were a lot of reshoots. The rumours have been, prior to this announcement, that the movie was almost being reshot twice. Mm-hmm. And Joss Whedon was brought on to script doctor and to work on some new material, and now it's looking like Zack Snyder's off the project and Joss Whedon will be taking over Justice League and finishing the shoot and whipping it into shape. Now, what I think this is interesting from is, and this is going to sound cynical, and I certainly don't mean to be heartless with this, because I big respect for Zack Snyder, and no one could imagine what he's going through. That's an absolutely horrible situation. But I'm also aware, particularly from reading so many of those Sony emails in the leak, how studios spin tragedy. And I hope that's not happening here, but let's just say that this news broke that Joss Whedon was reshooting and taking over Justice League and Zack Snyder was out. If that tragedy element wasn't there, can you imagine how this news would have been received and how people would have reacted to this?
It would have been gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been really disgusting.
It would have been considered a huge failing on Zack Snyder's part. And the thing is, because of the situation, it's kind of bulletproof, because you can't, you know, it's a horrible, horrible situation. But then it's also 2 months later. I've been so cynical about these things ever since I read in the Sony emails when Harold Ramis died. That was used by Sony to sort of further their case for continuing in this new direction with Ghostbusters. And Ivan Reitman, the original director's statement about the passing of Harold Ramis, which fed into promoting this new vision of the film, was actually appears in those emails written by the Sony people.
Yeah.
So I feel like there may be a bit of opportunism on the studio's part to... I just don't think it's an accident that we're getting that news
and I mean,
with this horrible thing attached to it. Because this horrible thing happened a couple of months ago.
Yeah, and he had said that he hadn't really wanted to make it public, and perhaps he was convinced to make it public.
I think, you know, they're obviously very worried about, you know, public perception of these movies and the direction, and to take Joss Whedon, who sort of was the one that managed to bring the Avengers together and put him forward and to lighten it up and everything, seems... I don't know, it's a really... and again, I hate to sort of reduce it to those kind of things because, as we said, there's a very human, personal thing at the center of it, but I just think it's an unprecedented situation that it's just worth sort of stopping and going, wow, this is really interesting, because if you didn't have that there, we've really seen how this news without a thing attached to it would be such a different reaction.
Especially because they really are, I guess, as far as the fans are concerned, two different sides of a coin. Like, they hate Zack Snyder for what they've done, and it doesn't matter what Joss Whedon does, he will always be the nerd hero. Because of Buffy, because of Firefly, because of Avengers, even though his output has maybe not been that good.
But they all turned on him with Age of Ultron.
Well, they didn't really, like...
To the point where he left Twitter.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah.
So that's the weird thing.
Yeah.
So there's something sort of tone deaf in a way about getting him on board, because it's like, well, we're going to get this person that has this very distinct feel, which he integrated so much into Marvel. And now we're going to get him to do Justice League, which has had a very, very different feeling.
Yeah. I think in general, though, there's more good feeling towards Joss Whedon than Zack Snyder.
Yeah, but this is where I think this news is interesting, because if you look at the approach of something like Batman versus Superman to Civil War, two movies coming out of the same year, and Civil War is not directed by Joss Whedon, but certainly carries on his sensibility. You know, when he sort of drops the reins there, you have it's the Rosso brothers, isn't it? That come in. Is it Rossos? I can't remember.
Yeah.
That come in and redirect. They're like new people that sort of are cheap and handy and carry on the legacy. In the same way that the Harry Potter guy comes in and goes, here's this cheap guy, he hasn't done a lot of other stuff, but he can carry on that, he's not going to change everything. He's going to carry on that world.
The framework's already there.
And he's going to make it feel like Christopher Columbus and mixed with Curon, etc.
Yeah.
So that's where it's where the news requires some scrutiny, I think, because it's one thing to say, okay, Zack Snyder's had this horrible tragedy, and the fact that he's managed to last 2 months is crazy. Like, the strength and what they're going through. So let's separate that. Let's say we've got Zack Snyder, he's got this issue, this horrible thing's happened, he can't go on with the movie, which makes absolutely 100% sense. No one's going to blame anything for him. Yes, go and be with your family. Surely you would then herald it forward with somebody who met that sensibility and was going to carry on Zack Snyder's vision. But instead, that's why it doesn't add up for me. You're taking someone that is really going to address all these perceived problems with those films. Someone that's going to come in and lighten them up and make them more fun and make them more funny and isn't so much about those big visuals. But about the character base. So there really is a shift of direction here as well. It's not just someone passing the torch. And, when Spielberg takes over from Kubrick, his intent is to carry on the vision as much as possible and to make it feel seamless and to bring his vision to fruition. But this is an about turn. This is a studio with cold feet tinkering with something. So that's, I guess, what I think is the interesting part. You can separate Snyder from that entirely. I think my comments aren't about Kim, but about what the studio's response is to this and what they're actually doing to this film. I think it's going to be a very interesting one because it goes both ways. We've seen examples of Suicide Squad and Fantastic Four being things that were tinkered with and changed directions and just are absolute messes because of it. But then Rogue One had a huge amount of reshoots and it worked. It brought that quality up and it made it, by all accounts, a better film. So who knows? I think it'll be very, very interesting to look out for. But Wonder Woman's next week. An early word is that that's pretty good. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. I've loved all the trailers, and even if it falls apart at the end, as these movies do tend to do, I don't mind. I don't think. I think as long as, 2/3 of the movie is strong, it'll be fine for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear all the controversy through the week? I think it's Alamo Drafthouse Theatre or something is doing women's only Wonder Woman screenings, and the men are not happy.
Oh, right. Okay, so Alamo Drafthouse, they do a lot of stuff with Ain't It Cool? Yes.
And, the men were like, we don't want to see Wonder Woman, until they're going, well, here's women-only screenings that you can't go to. And we're like, we are going to see Wonder Woman!
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's just like, fuck off. Like, let women have a space where they're... Because when we went and saw... Remember when we went and saw Ghostbusters, and we went to Gold Lounge because we didn't want to have to deal with the sort of people
you don't want groans and the roll-up. The people that make it their job while you're watching a movie to show that they are disapproving of the movie. So we removed ourselves and put ourselves in a, safer space, to use the terminology, and this is all this is, and guys are freaking out about it. Yeah.
A-holes!
Although, I'm disappointed that the advanced screenings of Rough Night are Chicks at the Flick screenings. I think you can still go.
Of course you can. Yeah. It's just a marketing thing. You can still go.
Yay! I will go. All right. So anyway, I'm very curious to see what happens with the film. And, of course, all the best wishes to Zack Snyder and his family. I know that what we say is very important to everybody. Nathan Drake... Uncharted, based on the video game series, Sony game series about an Indiana Jones type adventurer. This is one of those. He was kind of like the male Lara Croft who was the female Indiana Jones.
Yeah. And it's good. Like, I don't really play video games at all, but I really enjoyed Uncharted.
Uncharted are really great adventures.
Yeah.
Haven't played the last one. Now, this movie, they've been trying to make an Uncharted movie for
about 10 years?
Yeah, a long time. They had, oh God, I'm blanking. What's his face? Who directed American Hustle? David O. Russell.
Oh, yeah.
Was going to direct it. I think they were going to have Marky Mark as...
Okay. Well, if it's David O. Russell, why wouldn't it be Bradley Cooper? Bradley Cooper's in every fucking thing.
Probably
And it
would
would
have
be
been,
like
yeah.
Jennifer Lawrence with his love interest in it.
Yeah. And it was going to be like about the family and stuff. And people, like Robert De Niro was going to be in it.
Oh, right.
And there's a lot of people complaining about how David O. Russell didn't really know anything about it. And it was all blur. But we finally get casting news that it's going ahead with... I didn't actually look at who the director is. It's not David O. Russell.
No.
But Tom Holland. Spider-Man, little babby Spider-Man. And an Englishman going to be playing the younger version
It's
of
going to be
Nathan
a
Drake.
prequel, I believe.
Well, the games go back and show you... That was the thing that shat me with the third one. You go back and you play sections where you're kid Drake. You know, breaking into a museum and stuff like that and crawling along drain pipes and things, which is fine, but I want to be like swaggery adult one. And I want to, you know...
Exceptionally good-looking Nathan Drake.
I said this before, it's like those kid James Bond films. It's like, books. It's like, I want to read about James Bond before he could drink and fuck or drive. It's like, they're the things that I want to read about.
Yeah.
I hate that in games.
And the Young Indiana Jones series as well.
Oh, look, I'll never get over the Assassin's Creed 2, I think it was, where, you know, you're just looking at the cover and you're like, oh, he's this badass assassin, let's play, I want to be in there, I'm going to be stabbing people and stuff. And then, like, you start up the game and there's a cutscene and you're being born. And it's like, I'm a fucking baby. And then, like, for the next 3 hours, you grow into a man slowly. You're doing, like, you know, you're running errands for your mother and stuff. And I'm like, I want to be the guy on the cover. Plus, it's
that sucks.
going back to the future guy as well, who's, like, just walking around a room and talking to doctors and stuff.
Yeah, right.
And you're like, when can I fucking jump off the roof? Crazy. So, I don't know what to think about that. It's
Well, I'll be surprised if it happens. This thing the wheels have been turning for a long time, and we will see.
I think, though, the unusual, unexpected casting decisions, generally speaking, we should feel excited about that, because they've seen something that we don't yet see. You know, you always got to go back to that Heath Ledger Joker thing. You know, everyone was like, what? That's not what I would have thought. And people were doing really obvious, it should be Crispin Glover because he's weird looking. But they had seen something that they knew was exciting.
Or maybe
and we had it.
Maybe Tom Holland's a star on the rise who is still cheap enough at the moment.
Could be, yeah. Just cashing in on that Spider-Man vibe. But who knows? And more casting. So this is interesting. We've talked about this before. This Tom Cruise Mummy movie's coming out. Which, if you look at the poster, have you seen the poster where he's just sort of standing there and he looks quite small because there's a lot of stuff around him? And there's no mummy on that poster.
Oh.
So for me, I would look at that poster and I think, here's this little guy
He's looking for his
mummy. He's lost in the mall. And you go, you know how actors get older and they start to think, oh shit, the roles are going to change for me. There's a line in there's a Jonathan Colton song called Tom Cruise Crazy, and there's a line, I'm going to get this wrong, but I'm paraphrasing, that he knows someday he'll have to play an old retarded grandpa while someone younger plays his younger son or whatever.
Okay,
yeah. And I think, like, oh, that's pushback to that. He's going to play a kid. It's like, I can still play, look, I might be 50-something, but I can play 7 or 8. Here I am looking for my mummy.
Yeah.
The mummy.
Yep.
No,
Perfect.
it's a mummy. It's the mummy, like, bandages mummy.
Yes. Yeah.
Although she doesn't really have it. She's kind of like a hot bod mummy.
Yeah, though she might have bandages at some point.
She might have really tight bandages around her, like a corset, and it pushes up her dusty cleavage.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is about a whole sort of Universal Monsters revival, and the idea was that there would be a shared universe, just like, everything's got a shared universe, like Marvel, etc.
Yeah, conveniently discarding Dracula.
It's called the Dark Universe. Yes, because Luke Evans' Dracula was supposed to be the first one.
Yeah.
That was going to be the one.
Yeah, it was.
And then they were like, let's just forget that happened. Now the Mummy's the first one. But if that doesn't work, I'll be like, let's forget that happened.
Yeah.
So they've cast the Invisible Man and Frankenstein's monster. Mm-hmm. So Invisible Man is Johnny Depp. Frankenstein's monster is Javier Bardem. And, of course, Russell Crowe, we already know, is Jekyll / Hyde, playing two roles. So let's just take Javier out of the way for a moment, because I don't know much about this guy as a person. But Tom Cruise, Russell Crowe, Johnny Depp.
Is it just like the cunty triangle? Or
yeah, let's just get three people that are notoriously crazy or poorly behaved.
Yeah.
Like three people that make people sick to their stomach.
Yeah.
And put them in our big
Tom
multi-movie.
Cruise is going to be jumping on couches. Rusty's going to be throwing phones at you. Johnny Depp's going to be like smacking you in the face. Like, how is this fun for anybody?
So, I don't know what they're doing with that. Dark universe, yeah, it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Pretty dark what you're doing there. They've certainly put together a collection of monsters.
They sure have.
But whether or not audiences will be rushing to see them, I don't know. And speaking of Tom Cruise...
Yeah, well, he mostly announced it, but he said, I don't know, it was on like some morning show or something. He said, yeah, Top Gun 2 is definitely happening. Now, I don't know if I'm definitely going to believe the things that come out of Tom Cruise's mouth.
Although they've got a director here. So Joseph Kosinski, who directed Tron Legacy, he is going to get in the cockpit, as it were, and apparently bring Top Gun. I don't even remember the story of Top Gun. Like, I remember Top Gun as a series of quotes and memes and things, but I don't remember what it actually all boils down to.
I haven't seen it for ages. There was like... They're flying somewhere, and then they have to, something goes wrong, they have to eject out of the planes, and then Goose dies, and then Maverick's sad about Goose.
Goose was Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, the doctor from ER.
So, look, we got a lot of young dumb shit people listening. So, Tom Cruise is Maverick. Iceman is Val Kilmer.
Yes.
And Goose was Anthony Edwards.
Yes. And then there was a girl, and then...
Kelly McGillis?
Maybe.
McGillis?
And then Tom Cruise hooks up with her at some point. And I'm trying to think, is it...
And he makes her cocktails?
No, that's the other one.
And then he dies, and he comes back to life, and then he dies, and he comes back to life, and then he dies, and then he comes back to life.
That's the other one.
Okay.
I don't actually remember that much about it either. There was a volleyball scene.
When he ejects, he pulls his pants off.
Yep.
And he lands wearing sunglasses and a white shirt and just slides across the floor.
Yeah.
I remember that bit.
Yeah.
It's very risky business doing that, though.
My mum actually sent me a text the other week, completely out of context, going, I still cry when Goose dies. And I was like, Mum, are you watching Top Gun? Because this is really fucking weird text to send me. She said, yes, of course I am.
She was at a farm.
Okay. Watching Sunday dinner being prepared. Yeah. It was a movie that I enjoyed in my younger years. It was also quite a good Top Gun video game that came out too that I really enjoyed.
All right, so Tom Cruise, if this is going ahead, he's confirmed.
Yeah, and look, Tom Cruise is still in pretty good nick.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's a bit nuts, but physically in good nick.
Anthony Edwards is confirmed as the ghost of Goose.
Yeah.
Who'll be providing spiritual advice.
Yeah. Like Obi-Wan.
Yeah, probably won't be on set. It'll be green screen, but a lot of face in the clouds, voiceovers.
Oh, like Mufasa.
Yeah, I think, that sort of stuff. What am I going to do? What should I do? Looks up and there's Goose's face in the clouds saying, push the button on the left. But the big question, what about Val? What about Iceman?
Yeah, I think there's no one more enthusiastic about Val coming back to Top Gun than Val. Val has, as soon as this was announced, he was all over his socials going, I'm here, I've still got it. Bring me back to Top Gun. And everyone's like, oh, maybe not Val.
Speaking of people that nobody likes to work with. Val Kilmer, pretty notoriously poorly behaved.
Yeah, I don't know. I think following on socials now, I think he has a significant level of eccentricity.
Well, don't you think, like, Tom Cruise would be terrified of him? Like, I imagine, and this is all just made up, like, I don't know, but I would imagine that Tom Cruise only really can exist because of what people know about him and the way that people react to him, because he's become almost a crazy, like, Michael Jackson figure. And look, and don't get me wrong, it's not just about Scientology, because, like, something that pisses me off is Christians going, can you believe that he believes there were space people and this and this and this and this? It's like, look at what you fucking believe. You're both zany. But where was I going before I decided to, like, just
Tom Cruise being
tangent
scared
off?
of Val Kilmer.
And put the boot into Christians for no reason. Sorry, guys. I love Christmas, by the way. I love what you've done with that.
Easter's so good too.
Easter's fine. If Good Friday, call it Great Friday. I love it. Yeah, but I imagine Tom Cruise surrounds himself with people that are going to stroke his ego and where he has a lot of control in a situation. You know, you look at something like the Jack Reacher movies. I've only seen that first one, and the trailer for the second one tells me almost everything I need to see about it. But you go, here are things where he's not being challenged. I imagine that getting on the set again with Val Kilmer, Val Kilmer is going to torture that little man. Like, he's such an unknown entity.
He is
can
a
do
wild card.
anything at any time. Tom Cruise is going to go like, I think we should do it like, well, no, not I think we should. We are going to do it like this. And Val's going to go, no, but what about? And it's going to drive him fucking bananas.
Yeah.
So now I want to see that. Now I've just talked myself.
I don't even want to see the film. I want to see the behind the scenes stuff. I think Val's best hope, honestly, is a cameo.
And how is he in shape? Because at the moment, because I don't want Val to be stuck in the cockpit of this plane like Winnie the Pooh.
No, he's. He's very old man looking at the moment. He's looking pretty old, but
Top cunt.
Is. Oh, fuck. But he is thin at the moment. He's not chubby Val. He's had these cancer rumors that have been dogging him for years and years and years. He keeps coming out and saying, I don't have cancer, I don't have cancer, don't have cancer. But then he'll be seen leaving the doctors with like a plaster over his neck and stuff. And everyone's like, you sure you don't have cancer, Val? He's like, I don't have cancer.
Yeah. We kept leaving the doctors with a shirt saying, yep, it's cancer.
He's been on his socials because he's like, he does all this painting and has all these like, he'll do like Doc Holliday paintings that he'll sell and like Batman ones, and he's doing a because he does stencils and then just does these stencils, and he's doing Iceman ones, and he's just done like a range of t-shirts that have this stencil design of Iceman that he's done with like cool as ice written underneath. It's so fucking...
Oh man, he is going to drive Tom Cruise nuts.
It's so fucking awful, but as soon as those fucking things go on sale, I want one.
Oh, look, we're I feel like we're sort of lagging behind schedule here, but I'm just having so much fun talking about. I didn't know there was so much to talk about with all these things, so that's very exciting.
I'm happy to talk about Val Kilmer for a while.
but the biggest news of the week for me was the Vanity Fair Last Jedi photos that came out. Podcast, they're not a visual medium. You've all seen the photos now. I just am so excited. I mean, they're not showing you much that's new. You're seeing Laura Dern's character and Benicio, but neither of them are crazy aliens or anything like that. But everything just looks wonderful. If you didn't have a huge emotional reaction to, I have emotional reaction to just like Rey running or being in the cockpit with the Wookiee, Chewbacca, I think his name is. But to see Carrie with her daughter, Carrie with Mark, just wow, just fantastic shots. So, and to also see Phasma with the helmet off, which is pretty much just Gwendolyn Christie, but I'm glad it is just Gwendolyn Christie. Looks cool.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm pretty happy to see. Oh, they had Rose in there as well.
Rose was in there.
Which was cool. Good to see that she wasn't in between Poe and Finn, because nothing can come between Poe and Finn.
Guys. Finn's still wearing the jacket. He has adopted that. It's a second skin to him.
Yeah, I liked my boy Hux being in there. Happy that he's... don't you start on Hux. Hux has enough shit to deal with. He's ginger.
Nobody gives a fucks.
I give a fucks about Hux.
No, look, if you're going to have somebody... That's a T-shirt, by the way. But if you're going to have officers to bounce off, like, put in a ginger that you're going to remember. Because that's a thing. Like, even if you're a reasonable Star Wars fan, if you can get your Piets and your Moffies and your Needers and everybody clear in your head which one's in which movie, which is which, they're so interchangeable... You're not going to forget Hux.
You are not.
Hux is... and look, you know, I bring it up, I'm like, oh, fuck's Hux, but then I'm thinking of him standing on that planet doing his big Nazi speech with that
the
fervor.
thing in his eyes.
There's no Imperial officer that's ever raised the performance up to that level. So, yeah, good on him. I'm glad he's back.
Yeah.
All right. We're all happy.
Squared away.
Cannot wait for Last Jedi. I'm excited that it's nearly June, which means June, July, August, 3 months, and then it'll be the 1st of September. All the Last Jedi shit is going to come out. I'm going to start buying stuff. I just can't wait.
I look forward to going to Toys R Us and picking up the Poe toys and going, well, that looks shit too, and then putting it down. I don't know any Poe stuff.
I'm going to buy every single Ray
I know.
that comes out.
I know you are.
I cannot wait.
And I'm going to have to look at it all.
Oh, it's tough being a kid. So let's talk about the actual movie reviews, because there's no trailers that we saw that... we saw new versions of other trailers, but fuck that. Let's talk about Pirates first, yeah?
Okay.
Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, 5th movie. Where do we begin?
Well, I think the fact that people had been bagging this movie significantly actually made it a little bit of a better experience going in.
It did.
Because people were saying this is a piece of shit, and I was thinking, oh my god, if this is worse than the last one, then I don't even know how I can get through this. It's not as bad as the last one, but the last one is completely shit.
It's unwatchable.
Yeah.
The 4th one just goes nowhere.
Because they don't even have, like, they try to kind of get Sam Claflin in that Orlando Bloom-ish kind of role, but it's led by Jack Sparrow, and you cannot have a film being led by Jack.
So this thing, yeah, if I could have gotten out of seeing this, I would have. And, I tried. I put a couple of feelers out, like, do we really need to see this week? Because I thought that... I knew it was over 2 hours. I knew that even some of the most optimistic geek sites said it was a piece of shit. And I just thought, well, I'm going to be just so bored. But I think because the expectations were just incredibly low, I was surprised at how entertained I was. Like, I managed to get through it fine. And I don't know if that's my body going into... I think ever since having that 5-hour tattoo, I can put myself into that sort of state of, okay, I'm just going to go brain dead and just watch something. But, no, it kind of moved along at a decent clip. That said, I mean, there's nothing new here. Like, it's not better quality in terms of the script or anything like that. In fact, the actual storyline is so laden with MacGuffins and mysterious items, and this can do this because we need it to kind of stuff that, and I'm after you and he's after him and we're going to do this and double cross this. It's just all absolute gubbins. But you need to just switch off and watch the set pieces, really. And there is some very nice visuals. I wasn't convinced at first. I didn't think that opening was particularly atmospheric, and I was a bit worried about the direction. But as the movie progressed, there were sequences where I quite was sort of wrapped up in them. I was like, oh, this is a nice idea, and this is quite well executed.
Yeah, I did think the opening scene when they flash up the title card was so on the nose because they go, Dead Men Tell No Tales, and it comes up, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell... I was like, oh, come on.
Oh, look, this has got to be one of the most just broad movies ever, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing about these films. They're no risk-taking. The humour, everything is just so wink-nudge, broad. The performances are broad. I think and everybody's performing like they're in a different movie.
Yeah.
Javier Bardem is Salazar. the ghost pirate of this one, and he's fantastic. I mean, this is a guy that is just doing it like he's in a good movie. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and same with Jeffrey Rush, actually. Like,
Yeah, Barbossa is consistently one of the best characters in the whole series.
he plays it real. Like, you look at his eyes, whatever emotion he's going through, even if it's just a flippant plot twist or development or whatever, Jeffrey Rush is there. He's 100% there, and he's giving it. And there's something about this. And I think that's one of those nice things about Australia and Australian actors. And I've worked with some Australian actors, but I think there's this they're less, as they get older and they know how, like, I think they understand how fleeting it all is. And I don't think there's that pretension about what roles I'm going to do or anything like that. I think he's able to go, well, I'm going to go and be this pirate, and I'm going to treat that like I'm doing this role in for Bell Shakespeare or something. I'm just going to go in and I'm going to do it because I know that I might not have a job next year. You know, there's that sort of feeling, and I loved how professional and great he is. But the other side of that is the young Australians that are the male and female young leads who are just so, I'm just happy to be here. Oh, yeah, okay, I've got no personality. I've just got a big smiley face. I'm just a down-to-earth Australian person who's just looking around me and having fun. Yeah, what do you know? You know, there's just...
And I was cheap.
There's just nothing there. Like,
They interviewed Thwaites on the radio the other day, and I was listening going, fuck, kid, you've got nothing. Like, even just, he's answering the question, he's like, oh, yeah, it was pretty good working with Johnny Depp, and yep. And I was like, oh, kid, at least be interesting.
So you've got those two seasoned older actors just really working it. You've got the young people going, oh, yeah, I'm just glad I'm here.
I'm thankful to have a job.
And then Johnny Depp is just so over the top, overacting. Like, his beginning, even though the situation is actually quite good, I like his introduction and the setup and the set piece, but his performance there when he's intolerable normally, but Jack Sparrow drunk is it's just any nuance to that character or anything organic about that character. It's just all the quirks turned up as far as they'll go on the dial. And especially, of course, knowing what we know about Johnny Depp now and all the allegations with Amber Heard and even just the whole way he acted on the shoot with
the dogs
smuggling the dogs in and then being like, oh, I should get special treatment because I pretend to be a pirate. No, like, that doesn't make you... What, Johnny Depp? No.
I was in 21 Jump Street, you know.
Yeah, so
well
therefore
done,
I should be able to make up my own
quarantine laws.
Yeah, that's just absolutely crazy that actors would think that. And... and also, there was an article posted on our Fruitless Pursuits Facebook discussion group, which is about screenwriting. It's a hugely long article, and I read most of it, and it's very, very fascinating. If you're ever criticizing a movie and you're picking on people like Zack Snyder when it really is a script thing, it really goes through just how incredibly hard it is to get a script approved and written and get your vision out there, and how dicked around the writers are and how you can be fired at any time and everything's changed and it's just a mess. But I bring it up because the article was written by Terry Rossio, who is one of the credited writers of this film, and he says at one point in the article that his original version and vision for this movie was scuttled by Johnny Depp because he wanted a female villain. Well, he wrote a female villain, and Johnny Depp thought that was redundant because there was a female villain in Dark Shadows. So Johnny Depp will only go up against a female adversary once every 10 or so years, even though they're in completely different worlds.
Yeah, and I think it's really telling of Johnny Depp that he thinks that any fucking person in this world has watched Dark Shadows.
Or would be going, hang on.
There was a Dark Shadows.
Another woman? try something new, Johnny Depp. So yeah, I don't know about that, but look, we got through it, and I actually came out relieved because I was prepared to say that I was thinking this is going to be a 1-star film, and honestly, I think it's just like big blockbuster broad faff. It's like a 2.5 star. It's just like right in the middle. It's got moments. There's nothing special about it. It's but you know, I got through it. I didn't mind it, and
yeah, there was a few sort of little Australian cameos that kind of kept me going, that I enjoyed. There was one person in particular that I had no idea they were in the movie, and that made me very happy.
We talked about this before with Alien Covenant, and I've talked about it even earlier with things like Wolverine. I remember saying this when we saw the Wolverine with the Silver Samurai one. When you get into this big franchise mode, you really have to start thinking of it like more like TV, which is just a new episode come out, as opposed to every movie being this self-contained classic, because that's what it is. You're just going and watching another episode of Pirates. And, you know, if I'd watched that on TV as a, like, you know, broken up as a season of Pirates of the Caribbean TV show, I wouldn't feel cheated. I'd be like, oh yeah, you know, that's a show I watch, and I wouldn't be raving about it, but then I'd probably watch the next season. So you know what I mean? It's just...
Isn't that Black Sails? Isn't there like 3 or 4 seasons of Black Sails, which is basically the same thing?
Without Johnny Depp, great.
Yeah, great,
Like,
perfect.
Let's watch that. So, yeah. I think the question comes down to, like, it's never really about the story, it's about the execution, and I think with Disney movies, it's about, can you capture that magic? And that's where, for example, Star Wars is getting the resurgence, which it was losing. Was Star Wars has to be about magic and myth. You have to have that feeling. You have to feel like you're a kid again. You have to be in awe. And ultimately, why Pirates isn't a big success is I don't think it does that. At least not very often anymore. Whereas I have incredibly fond memories in 2001 going on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. And I had very low expectations. This is the one in Disneyland in Anaheim. And it is a really magical journey. Like, I just absolutely loved the shit out of it. Like, you go into the lobby and you are transported to, like, New Orleans at night. It is night. You're looking up at the sky and it's night, but you're inside. You look behind you and you can see it's sunny outside, and there's fireflies, and you sort of go down the bayou in your little boat, and there's like someone playing a ukulele on a, you know, all animatronic, and there's fireflies, and you just really feel. And then you go down into this tunnel, a skull greets you, and there's a moment where you feel like you're on the opening seas. There's a skeleton ship. It's just really atmospheric. It just really transports you, and I can remember that feeling so vividly. That sort of feeling of feeling the spray and smelling the salt and that atmosphere. And that's what I want out of one of these movies. I want them to find that. And it has affected me so much. I was saying this to a friend the other day. I have a recurring dream, and I've had this recurring dream since 2001. I can be with different people, different situations, but I'm at Disneyland, and I'm saying usually to the people I'm with, we've got to go on Pirates of the Caribbean. And I never make it. Not once in my dream have I gotten on the ride. Always get lost, or time comes up, or I wake up or something, but I'm always trying to get there and I never can. So if anyone wants to analyze that about my POTC impotence, let me know. But I just can't do it. So I've got to make a pilgrimage back there at some point. So, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, it was fine. I wouldn't recommend spending your hard-earned on it unless you are a very big Pirates of the Caribbean fan, but I think at this point, who is really a big Pirates of the Caribbean fan?
And did it feel like a final chapter for you?
I felt like they could have swung the sword a little bit harder than they did. They
wrapped up some stuff.
Yeah,
and they left some stuff open.
They left it open. If they want to keep going, they can. I hope they don't. Honestly,
look, I don't have a very successful, you know, how it should have ended YouTube channel or anything like that with millions of views, but this is my theory. Jack Sparrow is gonna like go off into the sunset, and he's got you know, the monkeys there. and he's got his compass, and it's like the compass points to what you want the most. Mm-hmm. And he's like, where's it going? It's sort of going to my left. Turns around. There's the monkey with its little dick out, just grinning at him. And he's like, so he turns around, he shuffles, the compass goes back, he looks back, and there's the monkey with his little dick just grinning at him. This happens for days. Jack like keeps bringing out the compass. He's like eating dinner. He looks across the table. There's the monkey with his little dick looking out at him. And then, Jack fucks the monkey.
Okay, cool.
And you go, yeah, that's a fitting end to that character.
Yeah, Disney. It's just Disney all over.
Oh, I forgot to mention that he invents AIDS. So, John Wick 2. Look, this is where we get into. This is where we are going to get into trouble if we sound like we liked Pirates better than John Wick 2, which I didn't. John Wick 2, I say it by now, is far the superior movie. But what I would say about John Wick 2,
I think I liked Pirates more.
Okay, that's fair enough. What I don't get about John Wick 2, maybe I do get it. Everybody just universally loves it. It's like 90% or something on Rotten Tomatoes. And then even if you go onto Metacritic, now we always mention Rotten Tomatoes. We should be using Metacritic because Metacritic is the aggregate of the scores. So this is quite good. I felt vindicated when I went onto Metacritic because Guardians, if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, it's got an approval rating of, about 90%, which means people gave it a pass. And I would have given it a pass too.
Yeah.
But when you look at it on Metacritic, its average score is about 6.7.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I was.
Yeah,
in fact, that's a little bit less than where I was. So it was like, oh, okay. I felt like I was the devil for going, well, I don't know if it's like such a great film. But it seems like most critics, when you aggregate their actual scores, are sitting around the same area that I am. Whereas John Wick's actually pretty high as well. So people really enjoy this thing. And there's no question that it is beautifully crafted. I love craft, and it's shot well, it's performed well, and above all, it's choreographed well. That's what it's about. It's I guess that's it. It's a really distilled, pure version of an action movie for action movie fans. And there are certainly a lot of people that grew up with those big action movies and those action heroes that could go and do anything. And they certainly weren't of the same quality. Whether it was people watching Seagull or Van Damme to Schwarzenegger to Stallone, Bruce Willis, whatever. And they loved the shit. And I loved those movies as a kid. I just don't connect with them anymore.
Yeah, I think my problem with the first one is that people were getting excited because it was, Keanu shooting guns a lot. And I went, okay, cool, but there's got to be more to this movie than that. And then there wasn't, really. And people were saying number 2 is more of the same, so I thought, I'm not really going to like this too much. And the first scene I did kind of like, the one with him trying to get his car back. I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is going okay. But for 2 hours, it's just Keanu shooting people in the fucking face. And I'm like, this is just hyper-violent, gun-worshipping nonsense.
Yeah, the gun porn aspect, I can't get behind. And it's because it's... I don't know, it's hard for me to say because I have no problem with violence, particularly... I have no problem with violence depending on the context. I was going to say if it's stylized, but it doesn't have to be stylized because I think, really realistic consequence violence is very interesting as well. And then you've got someone like Tarantino where it's stylized and but you are so removed from reality. Like it's so heightened. And then you have something like Kingsman, where it's so tongue-in-cheek, it's so satirical, like Colin Firth killing all those people in the church. I don't have a problem with that. But for this, it just skirts that. Like, it seems like the violence is the thing that we're supposed to enjoy the most. And it's not quite stylized enough. I mean, it's not like innocent people are getting killed or anything. He's there taking out waves of opposition bad guys, people that would kill him if he didn't. He's a reluctant antagonist. He doesn't really want to do it. What I liked about it was the continued evolution of the lore. I like the stuff with the hotel. I like some of the different people that are involved. I think when you start to do that, you have the opportunity to elevate that film away from being, then it's no longer realistic. Then it becomes more of a weird secret assassin society, James Bondy kind of thing where you get away with it a little bit more. There are sequences I really enjoyed. There was a sequence that I probably would have had a lot more impact for me if it hadn't been for a certain Vikings episode that we've seen recently.
Yep. I thought the exact same thing.
but would have been played very well. But
it was actually funny that scene, it sort of happened. I went, oh, okay, cool. And then he sort of gets his gun out. And I'm like, we don't need the gun at this moment.
Yeah.
We don't fucking need it here. Put the gun away, John Wick.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, fuck.
I think ultimately there's just a point where there's snippets where my interest is engaged, and it comes down to character dynamics. Like suddenly Ian McShane's there or something's happening, and I'm in there. But then when it becomes this long sequence of balletic gunplay, I just wonder. I need more than that. It's like, there's a bit... mild spoilers here. If you're in America and you want to see... You saw this months ago. But, there's a shootout in the...
Subway.
I was thinking I was going to talk about the Modern Art Museum.
Oh, yeah.
And with all the mirrors and stuff. And it reminded me of that sort of Joker, Batman sort of setting the showdown in The Killing Joke. But then you're like, yeah, it's that if you stripped away all...
The interesting stuff?
All of the dialogue and the context and the agenda and the MO and the sort of antagonist manifesto and worldview and everything like that. Because it just becomes this silent... And I think, to be fair, that's part of the appeal for a lot of people, this... silent, stoic guy that goes through and gets the job done. There is an appeal. So I want to couch all this by saying, I know I'm in the minority, but America, particularly now, is just such a problematic place that the idea that there are people going, oh yeah, guns and look at all the guns and to be able to just snub people out by pressing a button.
Yeah, I think the thing that weirds me out, especially, the events that sort of went down at the start of the week and that sort of thing, is just the celebration of violence. Even if they're bad guys and they've got it coming to them, it just feels yuck to me. And for people to be so universally behind this is really, guys?
Well, I think, I was interested when the car came into it and, when... there was more to it than the guns, but when it's just the guns, the problem, it's because it's spree shooting. I mean, it is spree shooting. It's not like a Bond or a Kingsman or something where you have this continued sort of elevated... Oh, no, maybe it is. I mean, he does dispatch some people in an interesting way. Maybe I'm not being fair on it, but majority of it feels like this whole spree shooting thing. And I feel like probably between now and when we do the next podcast, someone in America will go around and shoot a lot of people. It just happens constantly. And it's so hard to have that disconnect of watching it. And plus, this movie, to mention the subway and stuff, he's has a lot of action sequences in New York, which has no cameras, no police, nobody reacts to a visible gun on the street. People pull up in a train to a platform which has blood all over it and dead bodies, and no one's face changes, no one notices, no one sees anything. And if it's not shot in a way where I feel like it's not drawing attention to it. It's more like trying to make you just forget about that to advance the plot. If I felt that the filmmaker was sort of making a comment on how numbed we are to violence and how... New York, Turtles, Cloverfields, Lokis, people just go, oh, well, here's another stabbing or gunfight or whatever, and they don't react. Occasionally, people will scream in the background or stuff, but there's no, holy shit, a killing spree is going on in the middle of the subway. And you think, in this world that we live in, wouldn't there be, any other movie, that would be a huge terrorist... there would be SWAT teams, The
bit that destroyed me, which I think a lot of people would go, oh, that was so cool, is when they're walking on the two different levels and taking little shots at each other, and there are civilians everywhere.
No one notices, yeah.
Yeah, and there's civilians everywhere. You don't be fucking shooting, dumbasses, and 2, yeah, no one is noticing, and it's not like it's not noticeable.
Yeah, and it's played as a, it is a funny idea, and it's well played. But again, it's like, what's point are you making about, is this a critique, an exposure of the way that we view violence, or is it like just a cool idea and they're not reacting because that would get in the way of you doing your cool idea? And it's tended to lean towards the latter in all these situations where it was like, I don't think you're making a point about this. I just think you're completely ignoring the fact that, because it paints that's the thing, I guess. You're in modern day America, you're showing this stuff, an age where everybody is fearful of terrorists and guns and incidents and stuff, and when anything happens, everybody's first thing is, it's terrorists. And that's not the world this movie's showing. This movie just pretends that world doesn't exist.
Well, I mean, I guess you could argue that this is an alternate universe where there are, secret spy organizations and none of that's happened. But it seems tacky when we hold it up against the real world.
I mean, it plays that up more. Like, it feels like every, 1 in 4 people in New York is a trained assassin, according to this film. But I just don't feel it has all the elements are there for it to be a bit sort of tongue-in-cheek, heightened world, but it never fully goes for that, it never embraces that. And I think that's the thing, if you have this stoic, anguished guy who doesn't want to be there and you make that really real and human, but then you want to play it like some parts like Kingsman. It's, well, what is it? What am I watching?
Yeah, and it's a point, it's just, like, he doesn't feel to be in that much peril. Like, he's like the Terminator. Really, I have no empathy for John Wick at any point in this movie.
There's just that part of me as well, and even this applies to stuff that I like. Like, when you first watch Ip Man with Donnie Yen, and you see him do his thing, and with all the little punches and all the hand movements and stuff, and then suddenly you're watching like the third one or something, and it doesn't have that same effect as it used to. You've seen it, you begin to go, oh, this is what he does, this is his style, I've seen this. And I certainly felt there was this point where he's spinning around, he's shooting, he's making these movements, and I'm like, I've seen all this before. You're not advancing it in a way that is particularly refreshing to me. I've seen you do this. So I don't know. So sorry for everyone who had hopes that we might like this one a little bit more. I think it's, it is a well-made, good-looking film, but I just don't relate to it. I just can't connect.
There's no heart to this film. It is literally just shooting for 2 hours. And if it's not shooting, then they're doing some sort of MMA wrestling-y things with knives.
Yeah.
I was just like, no, not for me. I'm sure they'll make a third, but I'm not going to give that one a go.
It doesn't have the personality. That's the thing. There's no worldview from the characters.
And the worst thing is, like, if you're like, they're like, hey, Ruby Rose, want to be in a John Wick movie? She'll be like, yeah, what am I playing? An uncharismatic mute.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
They went, yeah, I bet you. They were like, oh, let's get Ruby Rose, she looks great. And she was like, hey, how's it going? And they were like, oh, fuck, you're Australian? Okay,
she's mute. You're going to have to learn sign language, love. And she's like, oh.
No, but that is a good point, because the violent characters of Tarantino's world all have this really clear worldview.
Yeah.
You look at the horrible, cruel, racist things that Leonardo DiCaprio's character is doing in Django Unchained. But that character is constantly spouting, this is my view of the world, this is why I'm doing it, this is my agenda, this is... And that's interesting. Same with like Hans Lander or someone like that. You understand these characters. Even in Kingsman, like Colin Firth has this MO that you fully understand. Whereas these guys are just shooting each other. Okay, fuck it, let's not talk about John Wick 2 anymore. I'm giving it more stars than Pirates of the Caribbean. Don't worry about that, because I do appreciate the craft of it all and the undertaking, but I'm just never going to be a fan. And I think, it's good for Keanu too, in the same way that Schwarzenegger's better when he plays robots.
Yeah, look, I am happy that Keanu is getting work as well, but...
he's got to wait.
Yeah, just it's just not for me.
We have hit time, but I just want to briefly talk about Twin Peaks. I can't talk about it too much because I don't want to spoil anything, but I have watched the first 4 episodes. You haven't watched it and aren't likely to.
Nah.
I am loving the shit out of it. I haven't been able to talk to anyone who's watched it yet. No one I know has seen it. Yeah, I think it is so unique and it's indescribable because it's very creepy and scary in some parts. It's just ludicrously funny and ridiculous in other parts. It is frustrating and like you have to endure it in some parts, but it's one of these things that if you're interested and you're watching it, I just got to encourage you to keep going because there are certain scenes which just go on forever and you'll be like, why the fuck am I watching this? I don't like this. But then something will happen and you go, well, glad I didn't miss that. Or the tone will suddenly... you can't go like, oh, well, yeah, this isn't for me because I've watched this 20 minutes because the next 20 minutes might be completely different. There's an episode where like there's no human dialogue for about 20 minutes. But then there's other parts where, like, Michael Cera's in there playing a broad comedy character. You know, it is so all over the place.
I haven't watched it and I don't really have much intent to, but seeing people talk about it on social media is, like, bizarre. It's like every single person is talking about a different show. Yeah. They'll be like, well, this thing happened, and then this thing happened, and this thing happened. And I'm like, is that all the same fucking show?
And that is why David Lynch is just so fucking... interesting because I read someone say that this isn't just a resurgence of Twin Peaks and bringing back Twin Peaks. This is like an homage to Eraser, and there's certainly bits where I felt like Eraserhead and to Lost Highway. You know, this is like the most Lynchian thing ever, and it's certainly way crazier and edgier and weirder and more experimental than even the original Twin Peaks was. But it's like, who else could get away with this? Like, he's so confident in what he's putting forward that even if you're confused as shit, you feel like there is a method to the madness. You feel like there's a purpose. You constantly feel like he is doing things deliberately and drawing things together, and it's just this wild mind just, you know, and sometimes you're going, I'm looking at this electric tree with a big fleshy lump that's talking. And I don't know why. Nobody knows why. But maybe I'll know why in like a few weeks, or maybe I won't. But fuck, what? This is just great. And everybody, like if you look at the cast list on IMDb, everybody is in this thing. And not just like original cast members, but just everybody. Like I said, Michael Cera's in a scene. Or great role in the first episode played by fucking Matthew Lillard.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And Naomi Watts is in it, and like David Duchovny's FBI agent in drag character. It's just all these. It's just amazing. It is a total fucking sledgehammer of a show. Yeah, like just the fact that it exists, that it is like Lynch completely off the chain, just doing whatever he wants. And some of the images, this is going to spawn a billion GIFs. Like when people are finally able to just talk about it non-spoilery and everything and everybody's caught up. There are some crazy images in this show. So I'm really amped up for the next one. I'm still watching Handmaids. I'm still watching American Gods. I'm enjoying both of those. But Twin Peaks is...
Yeah, the last episode of Handmaids, the one from this week, was quite a hard watch. And for a show that is a very hard watch, this was a hard watch.
I think that, you know, American Gods, the last episode I watched was mostly a flashback, and it had its moments, but it killed that forward momentum for me, and it reminded me of some of the aspects that I didn't necessarily connect with in the book. And there's that sort of reminder, as much fun as I'm having, most of the things I remembered from the book have kind of happened already. And, I know they're going to take it in a different direction, but... And even with Handmaids, you can start to see the pieces of, well, you know, this is a novel. This is something tightly written, and it's on a trajectory. Whereas Twin Peaks, you could go anywhere. Like, it's so, just unleashed that who knows. So, anyone's enjoying that, let's chat, because that's fucking insane. All right, I think that's our show. I think that's all the things we were needing to talk about. Thanks so much for listening. What have we got in the cards coming up?
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman next week. We'll be hoping to launch Half Hour History properly soon. We still haven't shared that second episode, but that's something we're still working on. Book Was Better is just floating around in my mind at the moment. It's not dead at all, but I'm still thinking of an exit strategy, maybe sort of going up to 200 and then finishing, and sort of like, well, what's the pace and what's the content of those last 13 or whatever it is shows, 14 shows, I think, in order to make them feel special. And of course, even if it finishes up at 200, I certainly wouldn't be opposed in the future once a whole lot of new novelizations have come out to maybe come back again. So who knows? But go to fruitlesspursuits.com. That's the best way to find out what we're doing, with links to our Facebook group discussion page, which totally recommend you join. That's where most of our interaction comes from. And, of course, you can rate and review us on wherever you get podcasts. That helps us a lot. And really, that's what it always comes down to. And Patreon as well. Just having that feedback, that's what fuels these things continuing. And knowing that people are actually listening, because if they weren't, we probably wouldn't bother.
Yeah, I mean, this show is easy and we probably would keep going with this one, but the others are harder.
Yeah, the shows that take a lot of work, there's that point where you just go, well,
who am I doing it for?
Yeah. I think that was part of it with Book Was Better. You just look and go, there's not really any feedback, discussion, or there's no new reviews or likes, and that's fine. Like, maybe it's just run its course. Like, it's not, the thing about Book Was Better is you're really covering similar ground all the time. Whereas what I like about this show is we get to respond to whatever is happening right now. And
there's no prep,
and
really.
Free movies.
Yeah, a few free movies.
We paid $4 each to see Pirates today.
We used the vouchers that we won at the quiz night, and she's like, "Oh, there's a surcharge because it's like VMAX, which is the big screen." And we're like, "What?" So we had to pay $4 each. Fuck.
It was
$4 worth.
Was
yeah,
enough.
Yeah.
Perfect $4 movie. All right, thanks everybody.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah.